Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back another video from Six. Another lore accurate video. Bam! Third one. I do believe it's the third one. Minato and was it Tachi the other one? But anyway, Rock Lee. Very interesting character. I feel like Rock Lee is a very interesting character in Naruto. So much potential. Especially when you look at my guy and what he did at the end. This is going to be an interesting one. What could Rock Lee absolutely do, right? We're going to it. Raw. It's raw! The law accurate Rock Lee can kick some serious butt.
1 year before Naruto graduated from the Ninja Academy, something so rare it's only happened twice in the known history of Naruto happened. A ninja without the capacity for ninjutsu graduated from the academy. While this may seem like a bit of a plot hole, considering that for the graduation exam you have to perform a clone jutsu, consider that at the end of the day, this is a school, and it's a school for people who are already considered somewhat exceptional in this universe. Not
Yeah, so why would they even accept him in the first place?
even everyone has the capacity to wield chakra, so if Lee is good enough to be a ninja without performing the clone jutsu, then an exception could be made. It's not like this is too foreign to Naruto either. Naruto doesn't do the clone jutsu and he failed the exam when it occurred, but he passed later by using the shadow clone jutsu, which is a different jutsu by
It
the way,
is.
than what the clone jutsu is. The anime also claims Itachi passed the exam the same way, and in other media they have Rock Lee create a speed mirage in order to simulate a clone,
Which is wow. Just wow. How fast is he moving?
but the manga just leaves this a bit ambiguous. By the time we're introduced to Rock Lee, although he's a Genin, he's already a somewhat seasoned ninja. The first data book tells us he's completed 31 missions, 20 being in D rank and 11 in C rank. This might not seem all too impressive, but it was enough that Might Guy decided to recommend him for the Chunin exams. This amount of experience is likely equal to 1 or 2 S rank missions because Naruto and his team 7 were recommended for the exams by Kakashi after their first mission.
Yo,
I'd like
okay,
to
fair.
point out just how impressive Lee would have had to be to even be recommended for this. Guy obviously doesn't want his student to die. He quite literally jumped in the way when that was about to happen. So for Guy to recommend Lee for the exams, he must be confident in his ability to
He just
pass.
knows. He knows. He knows. Rock Lee should. Rock Lee should have been so much more than what he was within the show. But anyway,
While it is true Lee is going to be fighting against a bunch of Genin, the level of a Genin isn't all too clear anyway. Rock Lee himself is a good example. He's much stronger than Naruto and Sasuke, even though they're all in the same rank.
yep.
Sasuke himself could be argued to be above a Genin level ninja as well. He's already able to perform the fireball jutsu, which Kakashi specifically says shouldn't be possible for someone his age, and he literally clowns 2 Chunin on his first mission. And
Yeah,
this
that was
isn't
sick
just
as well,
normal
yeah.
stuff either. Sasuke uses his shuriken jutsu to completely negate their opening move, and the ninja let us know
Yeah, just
that he
traps
actually
their, like,
made it
technique
unable
with it,
for them
yeah.
to free their weapons from what he did.
So cool.
Not only that, but Sasuke kicked them both in the face and then they immediately disengaged trying to go for Tazuna again. Sakura does move to protect Tazuna, but Sasuke blitzes the ninja again before he can even get to either of them, before Kakashi interrupts the battle. I guess you could say it's unknown how well Sasuke would have done without Kakashi cutting in,
Yeah.
but Naruto says Sasuke did this without breaking a sweat, and I know character confidence isn't always good evidence for stuff like this, but Sasuke does say Kakashi butted in, and he looks visibly annoyed that he did this. Coupled with
Like, as
Sasuke's
if, like, I could have
on-panel
just done it
performance
myself.
against these two, it makes me believe Sasuke is on the level of those two ninja. You could say Kakashi cut in because he didn't think Sasuke could handle it, but Kakashi does say he was just waiting to see who their target was before he attacked. He found out
Gauging the
and then cut
situation.
in.
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with a lack of confidence in Sasuke. My bad for the yap session, but Rock Lee completely outclasses Sasuke when they fight. And this is Sasuke who is much stronger than when he fought the Demon Brothers. I doubt I need to really hammer this home much, but Lee was so far above Sasuke that Sasuke literally saw Lee's moves and combat ability as a level to climb to, literally visualizing Lee to train. However, before all this, Lee was somewhat unremarkable. I'd like to dispute 2 things over the course of the next few minutes. One being that Lee isn't a genius or talented, I think he is, and I'm also fairly confident I can prove it. And I'd like to dispute the idea that Neji is just outright better than Lee. I think there's certainly a
Yeah.
case to be made for that, and I'll go over it when I get there. For now, let's talk about whether or not Lee is a genius. To start with the most blatant evidence, Kakashi outright calls Lee a genius after learning he can use the fifth gate. He says that feat should be impossible to achieve through hard work alone, and on top of this, Guy a little earlier claims Lee has the talent for learning the gates, which kind of just makes the argument even stronger. What makes
So he
Kakashi's
can
statement
do it.
even
It's
better
like,
is that he doesn't know how long Lee has been training to learn the gates. Considering how long Lee has been under Guy's training, which was a little more than a year,
damn.
it has to be that he had learned to open the gates within that time frame. Now, Guy does call Lee a genius of hard work, and this likely just means Lee has an insane work ethic. Kakashi's statement, however, makes it seem like Lee being a genius of hard work isn't good enough for him to have mastered all 5 gates that he can open. I don't want to read too deep into this, but the gates require you to physically strain your body just to use them, and Lee displayed earlier in the Chunin exams that he has an ability to heal. I preface this again by saying I don't want to read too deep into it, but this scene could be played up as a gag. You can see Lee is beaten up, bruised, and bloody, but then, a few pages later, he has absolutely no wounds at all. I would call this a drawing error on Kishimoto's side, but Sasuke takes note of it. He says Lee's bruises had healed up in that time.
Alright, so that's funny. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, he's made an error there. The character's doubling down on it, right?
If
Okay.
Lee has an extraordinary healing factor about his body, then it'd be easier for him to recover from the strain the gates place on the body, and therefore he'd be able to train more than everyone else. Not to compare Lee to the god of shinobi, but it's not like we haven't seen a shinobi with a healing factor before. Obviously, Lee wouldn't be nearly as good as Hashirama at it. We've seen that there are some things he just simply can't heal from, mainly the damage Gaara did when he crushed his arms. Now, onto commenting about Lee and Neji. While it is true that Lee mastered the first gate, likely very quickly, what people conveniently leave out about this is that Neji was also training to be able to use the first gate, and Guy says verbatim that Lee is the only one who is able to do it.
Oh.
Not only that, but Lee
Ooh, missed that. Okay, that's very interesting.
mastered it as well.
Yeah, on the... Wow, okay, sick.
Now, Lee does say that Neji is outright stronger than him, but the reason he says this is that Neji has the Gentle Fist, which
Yeah.
he can't access and believes is a better style of fighting than what he uses. Which
Than the
rightfully
gates.
So.
Right.
If Neji and Lee are the same speed, then Neji would just
But yeah, because the gates attack your body at the same time, don't they?
beat him down by using the Gentle Fist. So I'm not saying Lee is wrong for thinking that. The point I'm trying to make here is while Neji might be great at using the talents he's gifted with at birth, like his Byakugan and Hyuga blood, when it comes to techniques that they can both actually practice and use, like the gates, it's not really like Neji is more talented than Lee in those areas. Just saying as well, Neji is visibly scared when Lee pulls off the primary Lotus in training. To get back on track at least a little bit, I want to talk about Lee in the Forest of Death. I don't think Lee puts on a good performance here against the Sound Ninja, and this is honestly one of his lowest IQ moments in the very
Yeah,
few
he
fights that he's
doesn't
had.
do well here.
Lee notices he can't beat Dosu without the primary Lotus, so he goes for it, and it doesn't work out. Zaku softens the ground so that Dosu lands on soft soil, and even though Dosu does mention that it routed him a bit, it doesn't matter since he just starts beating Lee up. Now, Lee had no idea Zaku could soften the ground. That doesn't make sense. So, things not going his way in that specific attack, I can understand. The problem I have is with him launching the attack on Dosu in the first place. He launches his attack on Dosu knowing that there are 2 other ninja that he's going to have to fight, and the primary Lotus drains him of energy. Some would say Lee could just open the second gate in order to refill his stamina, and I'd be inclined to believe that if he actually did that at all.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Even when Sakura is being attacked again, he can't move. He doesn't open the second gate to keep on fighting. So honestly, I think this plan is just all around stupid.
You could also think about maybe the time and the author, and it's very early in the story, and Masashi Kishimoto was aware of what his techniques were doing, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Like I
Yeah.
said, probably his lowest IQ moments in the little fights he's had. Despite this hiccup, Lee does manage to make it to the next stage of the tuning exams, where he's put up against Gaara. Most of you know this fight as Rock Lee's one highlight.
Yeah.
I personally think kicking Madara in half is cooler, but to each their own. I was debating on whether or not to break this fight down in full, but I don't think that would fit well in this video, so I'll go over the things that apply in detail and go over the other details in a more general sense. Lee is unable to touch Gaara at the beginning of the fight till Guy tells him to lose his weights.
Yep.
But Lee actually does something pretty smart here. He's unable to touch Gaara even after removing his weights, at least before he amps himself up even further. Lee,
Zooming
noticing he's unable to land a hit on Gaara while his sand is on the ground, decides to attack where the sand isn't present, i.e. from the air, and that's how he lands his first hit.
Oh,
When Guy
so
tells Lee
sick.
to explode though, he kicks it to an entirely new level. He gets around the sand with no issue at all, and he cracks Gaara's sand armor with just one punch. When doing the Lotus with his weights off, Lee overdoes it and uses too many kicks getting Gaara in the air. If you recall, when he did this on Dosu and when he attempted to do it on Sasuke, he uses one kick to launch them into the air and then slams them into the ground. By my count of the impact markers here on Gaara, Lee uses 10 kicks on Gaara, not including the first one, to get Gaara in the air
Right.
before going for the follow-up slam. This was a bad move because the Lotus puts such a strain on your body to even pull off. Lee winces in pain from the amount of energy he's exerting, and that gives Gaara time to substitute a sand clone, avoiding the penalty of the follow-up slam altogether.
Right. Okay.
I won't call this low IQ, but Lee definitely knows better. We've seen him perform the technique correctly on two
maybe at the
separate
moment.
occasions. Lee
Yeah, it's
starts
just,
getting tossed around after this, and we already know from the Dosu fight that the primary Lotus takes a lot of stamina from him. But then he used the second gate to revitalize his stamina, and I think this is a good time to actually go over the gates and what it is that they do. In order, the 8 gates are called the Kaiman, the gate of opening, Kyuman, the gate of rest, Saiman, the gate of life, Shoman, the gate of pain, Toman, the gate of closing, Kaiman, the gate of joy, Kiyoman, the gate of shock, and Shaiman, the gate of death. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those. For gates 3 through 8, you can just imagine them as huge amplifications to your body. It's really not any more complicated than that. The only thing that really changes with the higher gates are the color you emit of your chakra, but for the most part, those gates are just all big increases. The first and second gate are a little more complicated, but they are still very easy to understand. All of the gates, when not activated, are necessary limiters placed on the body, and overriding them puts you at risk of greatly damaging your body. The first gate gets rid of the limit placed on the brain and the body and allows you to access 100% of your muscular energy, where you're normally only able to use around 20%. So in this regard, you can consider the first gate a 5 times amp to your overall strength and speed. The second gate is not an amp. The second gate, which is the gate of rest, just restores your stamina. So any fatigue will be healed by this gate, but not necessarily any injuries that were sustained by using the first gate.
Right, so you would never attack someone by opening the second gate. The second gate would be something to help you potentially use the third or just regain from first. Right, okay.
I just want to make that clear before covering the rest of the match.
Okay.
After using the second gate to revitalize himself, Lee decides to go into the fourth gate. He starts destroying Gaara when he does this, literally using juggle combos, keeping him in mid-air until he used the fifth gate to land the final blow. Fortunately, this isn't enough, and Lee ends up getting his arm broken and leg by Gaara. His injury is so bad that only Tsunade can heal it. According to her, there was a good chance Lee would never be able to be a ninja again after sustaining an injury like that. With this injury, it's pretty obvious Lee is out of the story for a significant amount of time. And to put that into perspective for some people, Lee gets injured in chapter 86, and he does not come back to fight until chapter 209.
Damn, that far. Jesus Christ.
I'd like to note, Rock Lee is stronger against Kimimaro than he was in the Chunin exams. The second data book tells us this verbatim. Now, he isn't stronger than himself in the fifth gate or anything like that. Gaara lets us know Lee was faster when they fought. But as far as his base form goes, Lee is stronger than he used to be. The statement reads, "A phoenix burns itself in flames of fire and is resurrected in a new body. Lee bets his life to have a major surgery and gains new power." Drunken Fist is something Lee can use before, and the surgery also didn't give him that power. So the most common sense interpretation just means Lee is stronger now than the Chunin exams. The manga itself also supports this. Sasuke himself is stated to be at weightless Lee's speed by Guy, and is confirmed by the data book that he is stronger than him. Sasuke and Naruto are clearly relative on the rooftop, able to exchange blows and whatnot. And Naruto gets completely outclassed by Kimimaro, and when Lee arrives, Kimimaro says that Lee isn't as easy as the rest of them, implying he's above Naruto, and the fight itself demonstrates this. Kimimaro is not as easily able to get rid of Lee as he was with Naruto and his clones.
Right.
Lee doesn't do much in this fight, however, outside of the Drunken Fist.
I was going to say the Drunken Fist is really a big one, and it's like, which is never ever used again.
According to Kimimaro, when in the Drunken Fist, he's too fast and moves too awkwardly to fight against him properly. It's also implied in the anime, at least, that Lee is even stronger than Guy when he's drunk, and that Guy is unable to hold him back. I mean, it makes sense when you think of the horrified look Guy has.
Yeah, he's absolutely shocked. He's like, oh my god.
When he finds out Lee might be out in the world drunk somewhere, unable to be stopped. That's really it for Lee in part 1 though, and you can certainly tell from the length of the video, that's pretty much where he stops being all too relevant. Nevertheless, I'm still going to cover the few appearances he has in Shippuden and other things we learn about him outside of those appearances. Lee's best showing in the early stages of Shippuden are, well, nothing.
Yeah.
Lee doesn't do anything impressive in Shippuden for a while. Granted, his first opponent is Kisame as a 30% clone, but Lee gets caught in a water bubble and if not for
Nothing.
Neji, likely
Nothing.
would have drowned. I don't know why he didn't open a gate to escape, maybe he couldn't, but nonetheless, he just doesn't do anything here. Same continues for an extremely long time. The only thing Lee does from this point to the war arc is fight a clone of himself and go on missions off screen. To note as well, the fight with the clone isn't even in the manga for much at all, and when it's in the anime, it's just literally terrible. You'd also be hard pressed to find something good for Rock Lee in the war arc. He kicks Haku with Guy, and then kicks Madara in half while being amped up by Naruto's chakra. But other than that, he honestly doesn't do anything. And the thing is, when making this video, I expected to find something. Just something for Rock Lee.
But no. That's interesting.
Whatever. But there really isn't anything for him. He's actually just not there for most of this part. And while his character arc is pretty much wrapped up, so he doesn't need to be there at all, I was still surprised by just how much he was missing. He's integral to the plan of getting rid of Madara's True Secret Orb, since he's the one that threw the kunai that let Minato teleport in the middle of them.
Yeah.
But honestly, even though he is needed here, all he does is throw a kunai. I understand how they wouldn't have done it without him, but his importance is literally throwing a kunai. It's just hard to be satisfied by that, even knowing what was at stake had he not been there. That's pretty much it though. If you liked the video, leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. But other than that, have a nice day.
Damn. I do like these lore accurate reviews of characters. These are cool. So there's been 3. I think it's Minato, Itachi, and then Rock Lee randomly, which is cool because Rock Lee has the interesting 8 gate going on. Do a Mike Guy one. Show us what those 8 gates did, you know. But yeah, cool character. Just adds so much potential, and it always makes me think about what was his name? Oh, there's a random video I did a reaction to years ago that I get loads of views on, and I get a load of really bad comments on because people don't agree with the original video. But it was Plague of Gripes. Plague of Gripes makes a really good point on how Rock Lee portrayed what Naruto was meant to be in the series, and I don't 100% agree with it. It is an interesting point though, but yeah, so Rock Lee was an interesting character to be brought in, and then just nothing. And I think that's why. I think that's what happened. I think Masashi Kishimoto kind of went, oh, he's actually meant to be what I'm trying to portray with Naruto. But yeah, really interesting video, and I hope he does more lore accurate stuff. There's still a couple of 6 videos and other stuff, but yeah, thanks for watching.